What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Motorola Moto G Play 2023 and the Samsung Galaxy A04s. Now, in case you end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I will be linking to several other videos about each of them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Moto G Play, we're getting a 6.5-inch 90Hz IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, a PPI of 270, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we're getting a 6.5-inch 90Hz PLS LCD display with a 720p resolution as well, a PPI of 270, and also a 20:9 aspect ratio. So in general, these displays are pretty much the same. Basically your standard issue entry-level phone display. On one hand, definitely not bad at all, but on the other hand, not really amazing or anything. So in general, if you're doing more basic content consumption, stuff like browsing the web, using social media, and maybe watching YouTube videos every now and then, for what they are, I do think both phones have really good displays, and for the most part, you will get a pretty good experience. Now for storage, with the Moto G Play, this phone does have 32GB of internal storage, with microSD card expansion of course, and with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, this phone is getting 64GB, with microSD card expansion as well. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is that as of right now, in March of 2023, the Samsung Galaxy A04s is actually not officially launched in the US. Now, in the future, I'm guessing it probably will be, and when it is, the storage amount might be different. I mean, the Samsung Galaxy A03s, which is currently offered by US carriers, only has 32GB, pretty much just like the Moto G Play. So I'm hoping with the A04s, this 64GB thing, when this phone does reach the US, ends up not changing. But just keep in mind, as of right now, we don't know, because there is no US version yet. But again, this phone in my hand that I did get factory unlocked does in fact have 64. So for the purpose of this comparison, having double the storage of the Moto G Play, the A04s does have a pretty big advantage here. At this point in 2023, I personally consider 64GB to be more of a minimum, because at this point with stuff like apps, the system, and just files in general getting larger and larger as time goes on, 32GB is honestly not going to be a whole lot of storage, and most likely won't be enough for most people. So between the two, if you are planning on having any decent amount of apps, then I would definitely go with the A04s. But on the other hand, I guess if you're a really light user, maybe you only have like 5 apps or something, and you're really just not doing a whole lot, not keeping a whole lot on your phone or anything, then in that case, I guess the Moto G Play will be okay. But again, just keep in mind, 32GB is not a whole lot, and while 64GB honestly really isn't either, it's at least probably going to be enough for the average user. So again, in general, if you are concerned about storage, then between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A04s is probably going to be a better choice for you. For security features, both phones do have fingerprint scanners. With the Moto G Play, it's right here in the back. And with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, it's right here in the power key. And keep in mind, with the A04s, we actually are getting Face Unlock, whereas unfortunately, the Moto G Play for whatever reason doesn't have Face Unlock. Now, although it's kinda too bad the Moto G Play doesn't have it, I feel like for most people, this is probably not gonna be that big a deal, because in general, a fingerprint scanner is perfectly fine anyway. I don't know how many people besides maybe iPhone users actually even use Face Unlock in the first place. But again, just keep in mind, if you do want Face Unlock, the A04s has it, but the Moto G Play doesn't. But starting with the Moto G Play, let's give the fingerprint scanners a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the Samsung Galaxy A04s. There we go. One more time. And there we go. And as you could see there, both fingerprint scanners were real fast and responsive. No issues at all. Now for the camera setups here, with the Moto G Play, we got a real nice looking hole punch design for the front facing camera. This camera is 5 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 16 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. With the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we got a water drop notch for the front facing camera. This camera is 5 megapixels. Then on the back, we got another triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So in general, as far as camera features go, these phones are pretty much the same. Unfortunately, neither phone has an ultra wide camera, but to be fair, unfortunately, even in 2023, it's kind of a common thing. So if you do want an ultra-wide camera, you are going to want to go with something else. But otherwise, for regular pictures, I do think both phones are at least decently okay. That being said though, when it comes to photo quality, between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A04s is significantly better. I mean, in this price range, getting a 50 megapixel camera is definitely impressive. And with this phone, I have found you can take some really good photos. On the other hand though, with the Moto G Play, for what it is, I feel like the camera you get with this phone is actually not bad at all. Sure, the pictures are definitely not as good as the A04s, but for more light camera users, maybe you're really just taking a couple pictures every now and then, and you really just don't need anything crazy. In that kind of situation, situation, I do think the Moto G Play will still get the job done, and I mean, for an occasional Instagram photo or something like that, nobody's gonna look at a picture taken with this phone and think this is a bad picture. That's just not gonna happen. So in general, for average real life kind of use, the camera with the Moto G Play is still going to be perfectly fine. But if you do want the better camera between the two, then again, the Samsung Galaxy A04s will be the one to go with. To give you an idea of what these cameras can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the Moto G Play. In general, again, I definitely don't think this camera is bad, and for more casual use, it will absolutely get the job done. If you're taking pictures maybe to send to friends and family, or again, like occasional Instagram photo, maybe not like a content creator level output, but just a nice photo every now and then for that kind of use, I do think this camera, while not being amazing, is still definitely going to get the job done just fine. And then here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A04s. Again, between the two, I definitely think the A04s does have the better camera. And honestly, even though it's really just an entry-level phone, I feel like the photo quality we get here is actually pretty comparable to some devices that are a lot more expensive. So in general, neither phone here has a bad camera, but if you're really just looking for something basic that gets the job done for more light use, the Moto G Play is going to be perfectly fine. But if you're taking a lot of pictures and you really want the best photo quality between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A04s will be a better choice. Now, when it comes to RAM and processor, with the Moto G Play, we're getting 3GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio G37 processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A04s, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the Exynos 850 processor. For overall performance between the two, the A04s is a little bit faster. On one hand, neither phone is really that fast, because after all, these are really entry-level devices, so you can only really expect so much. But that being said, again, if you're going to be on your phone a little bit more, then keep in mind with the A04s, you will get a nicer, smoother overall experience. Whereas with the Moto G Play, it will get the job done, so if you're really not using your phone that much, it is going to be perfectly fine. But keep in mind, even for an entry-level phone, it's definitely on the slower side. So if performance is a bit more important to you, then I would probably not go with this phone. Now, I did run benchmark tests on these phones using Geekbench 5. And here are the results I got. So again, between the two, the A04s is a little bit faster, maybe not by like a whole lot. But again, if you are going to be on your phone a little bit more, doing the same kind of things, because again, neither of these phones are particularly fast. But if you are going to be using your device more in general, you are going to get a better experience with the A04s. But if you are really more of a casual light user and you really just need something for the basics, then keep in mind the Moto G Play is at least going to be okay. Now for the batteries, both phones have 5000 mAh batteries, with the Moto G Play supporting 10W fast charging and the Samsung Galaxy A04s supporting 15. Now for the fast charging, is it really that big a difference? In my opinion, not really. The Moto G Play still charges up perfectly fine, and so does the A04s. I mean, at this level, the difference is really not going to be that noticeable. So for the average user, I feel like charging speeds are probably something you're not going to have to worry about. And for the actual battery life and longevity, with 5000 mAh batteries, these phones are going to be great. And in my experience, both of them have really good battery life. So if you're in a situation where maybe you're not really around a charger a whole lot, so you need a phone that's really going to last all day, either phone will be a great choice. And in addition to this, aside from the battery life per charge, 5000 mAh batteries tend to have really good longevity too. So down the road, as the batteries degrade, these phones are going to last a lot longer than phones with smaller batteries. So if you are someone who likes to get one phone and keep it for a longer time without having to replace it, then either phone here is going to be a great choice for that too. Now when it comes to software, with the Moto G Play, we are getting Android 12, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, this phone does have Android 13. Now, that being said, I do feel like the Moto G Play will eventually get Android 13 at some point, but in general, Samsung is really going to have much better software support anyway. So if it's important to you to have the latest version of Android, I would definitely go with the A04s. In addition to this, keep in mind, unfortunately, neither phone has NFC, so if you like to use tap and pay if that feature is really important to you, then you're definitely going to want to go with something else. That being said though, honestly, in this price range, seeing that these phones don't have NFC, it's not really surprising because unfortunately, even at this point in 2023, with contactless mobile payment services becoming more and more widely used, there's still plenty of entry-level phones and even some mid-range phones that still don't have NFC, which is definitely disappointing, but again, it's really not surprising. So overall, seeing that these phones don't have it is really not that much of a drawback compared to other phones like them. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In general, and pretty much every way where there's a difference, the Samsung Galaxy A04s is a better device. First of all, it has doubled the storage, which in this day and age is definitely a significant advantage. It also takes much better photos, has slightly better performance, a newer software, and better software support too. That being said though, the real thing to keep in mind here is that with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, again, as of the recording of this video, this might be different by the time you're watching this, but as of right now, the A04s is not officially launched in the US, so if you want this phone, you will have to get it factory factory unlocked. So for this phone, you will have to pay pretty much full price, which granted is really not that much, but still, until it's officially launched in the US, if you are using a US based carrier, it's not like you're gonna get this phone for free. On the other hand though, with the Moto G Play, I know several carriers do actually offer this phone. So as of right now, again, this could change, but right now, the deals with the Moto G Play are gonna be a bit better. So if you can get the Moto G Play for free, but you have to pay full price for the Samsung Galaxy A04s, honestly, at that point, I feel like the Moto G Play is probably still gonna be more worth it, because in general, despite some of these differences, especially the storage being a little bit more significant, at the end of the day, these phones are really around the same level, and I personally wouldn't pay $150 more for the Samsung Galaxy A04s, especially when carriers offer much better options anyway. But that being said, if you can get these phones for around the same price, then I would absolutely go with the A04s instead, because again, unless you really like Motorola's Android skin or something, in pretty much every way, the Samsung Galaxy A04s is a noticeably better phone. But if you are looking for a really affordable phone for more basic occasional use, then in general, either phone is still going to be a perfectly fine choice. But this concludes my comparison between the Motorola Moto G Play 2023 and the Samsung Galaxy A04s. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I will be linking to several other videos about each of them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalibas Tech on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, I will see you in the next video.